These alien-looking sprouts are actually very down-to-earth. Bathed in red light for optimal growth, they are corn seedlings. They're just one of the plants featured in these time-lapse movies. The goal? Figure out how to grow crops optimally suited to survive and thrive.
We can't hope to improve a plant unless we understand it well.
Plant physiologist Edgar Spalding wants to know what makes plants tick. He says the key is to study the function of each of the thousands of genes that make up their DNA.
One way to do that is to collect images of plants that have those genes altered in some way. And by measuring how those plants grow and develop differently, we are able to infer the function of the gene that's been manipulated.
Spalding has genetically modified each of these plants so each grows slightly differently. Specially rigged cameras like these snap their pictures once every 30 seconds or so. Now, these tiny roots are ready for their close-ups. And this robotic camera shoots dozens of roots at once. This is the result.
We have made hundreds of thousands of measurements from thousands of different plants. Let's say we just had a ruler, we'd be on number 2 maybe.
The time-lapse movies are loaded into a computer.
So you've isolated regions of interest on the upper and lower sides of the root.
And an algorithm measures cellular growth rates in the root with pinpoint accuracy, as well as the angle and curvature of the root tip.
By using so-called computer vision or machine vision to track their growth and development, we can get at the genes that control root growth, and those hopefully will have fundamental importance to crop improvement. It lays the foundation for potential discoveries that will help improve plants for human purposes. A root system that spreads to forage for water better would be an important improvement.
Sowing the seeds for better crops of the future. Now that's an idea worth growing.
Experience CBS News.
We're at Jeffrey's Grocery, where they have a lobster spaghetti that's a creative take on a whole lobster without any of the work. Located on a quiet corner in the West Village, Jeffrey's was originally launched as a high-end grocery store with an all-day luncheonette and a raw bar. A year ago, the owners realized the concept wasn't working. They closed the shop for 38 hours, retooled the space, and added a full menu that's cooked entirely using induction burners. What's emerged is an American bistro with a vibrant crowd and a seafood-heavy menu. The dishes are classic with a slight twist, like a skate wing dressed up with braised oxtail. Combining lobster with pasta is nothing new, but Chef Eric Milley pairs spaghetti with meat from a whole lobster and the subtle flavors of tomato and tarragon. Eric starts with homemade lobster stock and tomato confit and adds 2 large dollops of cauliflower puree. The puree takes the place of cream because it's cheaper and healthier. He cooks the mix and adds spaghetti. In the meantime, partially cooked lobster meat is finished in butter. He adds fresh tomato and chili flakes and tosses the mix until it clings to the noodles. He then tops the plate with lobster, sprigs of fresh tarragon, and a large Parmesan crisp. Each bite is comforting, with sweet, buttery lobster complemented by occasional punches of robust tomatoes and hints of refreshing tarragon. Ask for it shared, and Eric will send it out on 2 plates. It's a good way to cap a meal for 2 that starts with smooth chicken liver mousse and a side of spicy greens. Just make sure to find space for one of those entertaining cocktails, like the whiskey-heavy good stuff.
Experience CBS News.
Every single facet of American music has the fingerprints of Chicago music makers all over it. Musicians sweat it out in muggy blues clubs, long orchestra seasons, and every sound in between, which in turn has elevated Chicago as one of the best music hubs of America. So finding something to do on any given night is effortless. Chill out at one of the many dive bars like Boss Bar, or rock out to the fret-bending licks at the House of Blues or Buddy Guy's Legends. Bluesmen first set up in the open-air markets of Maxwell Street in the 1930s, and by 1936, Chicago had become a regional hub of the blues genre. These days, Chicago's blues musicians still play much of the same music they were playing 40 years ago, characterized by screaming guitars, rolling bass, and R&B inflected rhythms. Not only did the Chicago blues originate here, but Chicago was also the birthplace of house music, an electronic dance style heavily influenced by soul and funk. A wild night requires a visit to Crescendo, a fun upscale club with banging beats and a buzzing atmosphere. Chicago also has a thriving jazz scene, dating back to 1917 when African Americans from the South migrated to the Windy City. During the 1920s, some of America's most important jazz records, from artists like Louis Armstrong, were recorded in the city. Head to Andy's Jazz Club and Restaurant to check out the best that Chicago's jazz scene has to offer. Established in 1951, the club has hosted past jazz artists such as Von Freeman and Franz Jackson. For a culture fix, watch the symphony perform at the Orchestra Hall, or check out the Oriental Theater to see the latest Broadway extravaganzas. The spectrum of entertainment in Chicago will leave the visitor spoiled for choice.
Experience CBS News.
They came after midnight when most folks were sleeping. By the time the sun rose today, survivors could see what had terrified them in the night. From a helicopter over Harrisburg, Illinois, you can follow the path that one tornado took. Buildings blown apart on their foundations. Winds as high as 170 miles an hour did this, and Harrisburg was not alone. 27 tornadoes have been reported. At least 9 people are dead, more than 150 injured. The resort town of Branson, Missouri is hit hard. The storm system moved east. Tornado watches and warnings were posted from Mississippi to Ohio. We have 2 correspondents in the disaster area. First, Dean Reynolds in Harrisburg, Illinois. Dean?
Scott, just have a look at this behind me here. This used to be a strip mall here in Harrisburg, and as you can see, it has been completely, utterly pulverized. The governor of the state declared this part of southern Illinois a disaster area today, and if you just look around me, you can see it's easy to see why. As she surveyed the damage in her neighborhood on McKinley Avenue, Tammy Risley remembered the noise.
It was like a growling. It was the loudest growling that I've ever heard. It was like, it's in the death chill up my spine.
The tornado ripped across this town of 9,000 residents at 5 a.m. It swept in too fast and too early in the morning for the warning sirens to do much good.
The sirens went off and then it hit.
So like, just when you heard the sirens, then the next thing you heard was...
Yep. And the power went out and it just blew.
Many here did not take cover until they heard the sounds of their own homes falling apart.
I thought I was going to die. Me, my kids, and my husband was going to die.
Daybreak revealed the scale of destruction, the piles of debris, the cars still parked where their garages once housed them, the town's Walmart and strip mall basically torn to shreds. In all, at least 300 homes and businesses were damaged or destroyed in this town, where Eric Gregg is the mayor.
We will rebuild this city. We will make this city stronger. This will not stop us. It will make us stronger.
The storm system was created when a mass of cold air from the Rockies crashed into unseasonably warm and wet air over the eastern part of the nation. Harrisburg's tornado tore a 200-yard wide path across the former coal mining town.
It was devastating. You can imagine what it was like.
Experience CBS News.